I'm your host for today, Gabrielle, and right now I'm thrilled to be joined by JohnHenry Ruggieri from SunDance USA and Tommy Evans from Hudson-Sharp. Welcome, JohnHenry and Tommy.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being on the podcast today and taking the time. We're going to actually start off and give our audience just a little bit of your background so they get a better understanding of yourselves, but also your roles and what it is you do. So let's go ahead and start with you, JohnHenry.
I'm JohnHenry Ruggieri, president of SunDance USA out of Orlando, Florida. We are a commercial printer serving a lot of the vacation ownership, theme park, restaurant, entertainment, and we also do now packaging, everything from flexible folding cartons and labels.
Fantastic. And Tommy?
I'm a sales executive for Hudson-Sharp PCMC out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. I sell packaging equipment throughout the South to any converter that needs pouch machines, bag machines.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing a bit of both of your backgrounds. To get into the meat of the conversation, let's actually talk a little bit about that initial pivot and what caused SunDance USA to want to go towards more flexible packaging during, but also after COVID.
Well, I think the real transition for us was COVID. We had traditionally always followed the market, starting out with commercial printing, going into wide format, then eventually bringing a finishing in-house. We saw where the market trends were headed, so we decided to get into packaging a little bit deeper in 2019 and bought a label press. And then with COVID hitting, our major verticals were all very tourism based, so that business was essentially decimated. So we pivoted into flexible packaging and then took the downtime that we had during COVID to get the team trained up and jumped into flexible packaging with both feet.
All right, so turning it over to you, Tommy. What were your initial impressions when SunDance USA initially approached Hudson-Sharp for a solution?
Well, one of the things we have is we work with some of the printers, digital printers like HP. HP recommended Hudson-Sharp to JohnHenry because JohnHenry had purchased HP equipment. And so we partner with HP. Partner is kind of a loose word of where they're providing digital printing equipment. The Aries 400 that JohnHenry bought is targeted toward the digital market because it's a small machine, very quick to change over, and a robust machine. So it really perfectly fit the needs of what he was wanting to make.
Yeah, and Hudson-Sharp was also there to help support during this transition. What were some of the ways that happened?
Well, we did on-site training. We followed up with more on-site training because he was a greenfield operation. They'd never had a pouch machine. We just kind of not held his hand, but were there for support throughout the process. Anytime they had problems, we could either do it by phone or we even sent technicians down several different times.
So having a supportive presence and being there for any type of troubleshooting. Talking a little bit more to that, how does Hudson-Sharp ensure kind of that smooth onboarding and training process for clients when they're going through transitions like this?
Well, especially a lot of the people that are getting into digital printing, as I said, with JohnHenry's team, they did not know anything about making pouches. Now, he had an operator that he had hired, a supervisor that he hired that had experience in that arena, but as a company, they did not. So we provided training, on-site training. We held a Grow More event where we brought guys from PCMC in, and they studied everything that the operators were doing from the start of the process all the way through the end of it. And then we brainstormed on how to improve those processes. And I think that was a very valuable tool for SunDance. And he has now an extremely sharp lady running the pouch machine that is really, really good. She learned a lot from that as well as the other times that we were there.
So yeah, to talk a little bit more about the machine, JohnHenry, tell us a little bit about the machine that you chose and why.
So we chose the Aries 400, as Tommy mentions, that smaller pouch line, but we're a 30-inch shop, so we can only print a 30-inch web. So it fit our needs very well. It had a relatively small footprint. A lot of the autocorrect and auto settings were very attractive for us, particularly with the digital print. And then, the reputation was certainly a factor as well. Having really large company backing was super important for us.
And I mean, how is this machinery specifically targeted at the digital printing world, especially for short runs?
Yeah, I think, some of the, we'll call it the auto setup. We've got the modules for auto setup and auto correction. So it's basically it has servo motors that are helping us set the job up as well as make sure it's staying in registration as it runs.
Do you find that there's certain markets that this type of approach is the most beneficial for?
So we're doing a lot of short run being a digital shop. So we're doing a lot of changeovers. So we certainly do utilize that technology pretty frequently. Our runs are not that of a flexo shop. So it's not like we're setting the machine up and just letting it rip for days on end. We're doing multiple make readies a shift. This machine really has helped us there.
Well, I'm sure also in this shift over to flexible packaging that it's impacted the way that y'all go through some of your business operations. So what are some of the ways that you've seen that happen?
The shift to flexible packaging was probably one of the most dramatic changes we've ever seen. Like I said earlier on, we morphed from commercial printing to all different technologies, following where the market trends were going. So we've done that throughout our history. I think we probably underestimated the complexity of flexible packaging. Is a very, very, very technical business, and Hudson-Sharp really was there for us to help us get through that learning curve. But that was probably the biggest learning curve I've ever personally experienced.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'd also love it if our audience could learn a little bit more about the background of SunDance USA as a target account for the newly minted Eris 400 SUP.
We thought this machine was just the best design for the short runs, the quick changeovers that are required. And as JohnHenry mentioned, a lot of flexo customers, we have larger pouch machines as well, and they are designed to run 150,000 impressions, 200,000 impressions. They're harder to change over because they're much bigger machines. This machine was designed for companies like SunDance that are going to be running digital printing, so they may change over 5 times in a day. If it takes you 2 to 3 hours every time you change over a machine, you'd never be able to do it in digital printing. So this machine changes over probably in less than an hour, depending on what pouch they're coming from or going to. And so JohnHenry was a prime target for us because they were very new to the market and we wanted to help them grow.
Absolutely. Well, SunDance has actually been a huge proponent of our machine. So could you just elaborate on the type of support that you've been seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we get all kinds of support from Hudson-Sharp. We certainly don't need as much support as we did in the beginning, but it's been fabulous from the start of, if we had a problem, they would fly somebody out. If we had a technical issue, we can get phone support. They are able to dial into the machine to look at certain specifications. And then, Tommy mentioned, the Grow More event, they came in and they videoed some of our processes and, ran us through a real Kaizen lean event that was super helpful establishing our processes early on.
Love to hear it. Well, I mean, what advice would you give to other companies considering almost a similar transition or type of integration? What would you tell them?
I would say make sure you pick the right partners, right? Make sure you can rely on your partners. Again, the learning curve was bigger than I had anticipated. So having a network, either with Hudson-Sharp or HP or whoever your vendors are, just lean into them and use the support that they offer.
Absolutely. Well, any last thoughts from JohnHenry or Tommy before we wrap up today's conversation?
No, just glad to have JohnHenry as a customer.
Yeah, no, and we're happy to be a customer. We're super happy with our machine. Hopefully talking to Tommy soon about some future investments. So thank you.
Well, that's a fantastic partnership. Thank you, JohnHenry and Tommy, for sharing both of y'all's experiences and insights with us today. It's been a pleasure to hear about SunDance USA's journey and just how Hudson-Sharp has played a crucial role in your success. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.